Well, I tell you folks, I think it's time that us as farmers, that we band together, we let our voices be heard, and we start making some statements. Now, y'all know me, I'm a numbers guy. I absolutely love looking at numbers, and well, I figured out some numbers for you here that I wrote down, and just to give you an example of how by buying less, we can make more profit. Hey guys, Future Matt here. It's been a couple weeks since I filmed this video, and after seeing plenty more stuff appear online, more statistics and everything else, it's my wish that rather than filming this video while I was shelling corn, inside of a combine, I wish I'd put a lot more effort into this type of video. Better filming, done a lot more research with statistics and everything else. As it is, I've already re-edited once to include a couple more things, but the premise of the video is still true. Guys, us as farmers, we help create this mess that we're in now. We've done it by overproducing for several years, by setting our goals higher and higher each year, and we've been a big player in actually causing this mess. And guys, we don't need to be waiting around on Uncle Sam to send us subsidies to help fix it, because it's not going to help fix it. It's just the subsidies are just going to pass right through us into the big ag companies, because they're going to raise their prices if they find out that we get more subsidies. We also don't need to be waiting on China. China's probably not coming back. China's invested billions of dollars in infrastructure in South America. They want to buy all their stuff from South America. We might get some Chinese demand back, but it's not going to be what it was, so we don't need to be waiting on China. What we need to be doing is, instead of a lot of us asking for more subsidies, we need to ask our policymakers to give us more domestic markets. E15 could potentially be a big source of demand. This is the kind of stuff we need to focus on. We need to focus on controlling the supply chain more ourselves by not overproducing every single year. So anyway, guys, get you back to the video. Just want to say those few words that I wish I'd put a little bit more effort into producing this video. But anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it gives you some things to think about in running your operation for next year. And anyway, I'll get you back to present Matt. All right, as I've been shelling this excellent corn, the one excellent field of corn we're going to have this year, I've been doing a lot of thinking. For the last several weeks, been seeing a ton of stuff on social media, stuff from your major agriculture publications and everything in the news about the farm crisis in America. And I've well documented all year long the struggles we're going to face this year, just trying to make a profit, and then having a drought on top of that just really exasperates the problem. And I've seen a bunch of people throw around a bunch of blame about the reason for the farm crisis in America. And the farm crisis in America is real. We're not making this stuff up. There's no hope of me making a profit this year. We lost a lot of money last year. We're going to lose a lot of more money again this year, and we've done the absolute best job we can to try and ensure that we make a profit. There's no doubt about that. But seeing a bunch of stuff out there that everybody wants to blame the tariffs for farmers not making any money this year. And I'm not gonna lie, the tariffs are playing a small part of it. But this problem began long before Trump was in office the second time. It started before Biden was in office, and it even started before Trump was even in office on his first term. This kind of stuff has been progressing and ongoing for a long time now, and it's just really reaching ahead this year. But the main cause of why it's so dang hard to make a profit in farming right now is that because for years now, all of these major companies, your Bayers, your Cortevas, your Syngenas, the ones that make the products that we use, have been steadily increasing the cost of our inputs You know, all the fertilizer manufacturers and everything. You know, I'm not talking about the retailers, you know, the co-ops, the Helenas, the Nutrients, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the ones that actually make the products. Probably at least a couple of decades now, all these major players have been basing the price of the products that they sell us on the perceived value that product gives us. You know, most retailers, you know, when they determine the price of a product, they figure up how much it cost them to make that product, and then they put a profit margin on top of that product to sell and determine their products. Not so with these major ag companies. You know, they got a bunch of bean counters in there that every product that they make, they determine what the perceived value of that product is to the farmer, and they figure that they need a big part of that pie. I'll just give you an example. Let's talk about seed varieties. If you've got an X variety, an O variety that is priced at, say, $300 per bag, and it yields 200 bushels per acre of corn, these companies feel like that variety has a certain value. Well, then if they bring out a new variety, let's say variety Y, and its yield is 205 bushels per acre, well, they think that it's giving more value to the farmers, so they're going to increase the price for that new variety of corn, say from $300 to $315 a bag. But they're not taking into account that in the last year, you know, the price of corn has gone down by 20%. So while that new variety might yield more, it doesn't have the same value to us that it did last year, because the prices of our commodities have declined by 20%. But these companies don't take all of that into account. So for years, I've heard that farmers are price takers. And to some degree, that is true. We are price takers on the commodities that we sell. We can't dictate the price that we sell our commodities at. It's determined by, you know, mostly the Chicago Board of Trade. And then we just have to sell when we get a price that we think is reasonable for our crops. Well, just because we're price takers on the commodities we sell doesn't mean that we have to be price takers on the inputs that we buy. We do have power. We've got our purchasing power. You know, farmers all across America spend billions of dollars overall every year on purchasing the inputs for the crops we grow. Well, it's time for us to start exercising that power, and we can do that by not buying all of these high-priced inputs. Or if we do decide to buy, you know, certain types of inputs, don't buy as much of those inputs. Now, y'all know me, I'm a numbers guy. I absolutely love looking at numbers, and well, I figured out some numbers for you here that I wrote down, and just to give you an example of how by buying less, we can make more profit. I'm sure most farmers right now have already been contacted by their retailer about going ahead and placing their order for next year's corn seed. So we're selling corn, so let's just talk about corn right now and how we can make a difference. Historically, the U.S. on average produces around 93 million acres of corn every year. Now this year I think it's up around 98 million acres of corn. You know, on that 98 million acres of corn, the USDA is predicting us to have an average yield of 188 bushels per acre. And that's a big reason why we're looking at $4.20 corn on December futures right now. Well, as we're thinking about what we're going to buy for corn seed next year, if we're able to remain in business, you know, I'm sick and tired of Bayer, Cortevas, all these other companies telling us that their corn seed's worth over $300 a bag. I've already gotten a report from one company that even though with this depressed commodity prices, that corn seed prices will be higher again next year for new varieties, even though the value of our commodity is way down. Let me tell you, that just don't sit well with me, and it shouldn't sit well with you. But how can we make a difference? We can make a difference with our purchasing power. Now, I know ever since I was born, as long as I've been in agriculture, it's kind of been ingrained in me that, you know, to be successful, we need to make more yield, more yield, more yield. And for many years, that's how I judged my success from year to year. If I made better yields the following year than I did this year, then I was becoming a better farmer. I was being successful. I was doing a good job. Well, that right there is what has got us into this situation. Farmers overproducing too much commodities. And, you know, and rather than passing the buck on to, you know, these companies or the president, you know, politics or whatever else, I think us as farmers, we need to share our fair share of the responsibility. We've overproduced. So how do we get profitable prices back? Well, we need to produce less. But let me show you how that producing less can actually make us more money. Corn seed, for example. What would happen if all the corn farmers across the nation reduced their population that they planted by 1,000 seeds per acre? As it is, a lot of us are planting too much seed anyway that can actually be detrimental to yields. Well, how can planting just 1,000 less seed per acre make a difference? Well, let's just say on that average 93 million acres of corn every year, if every farmer planted 1,000 less seeds per acre, that would be 1.16 million bags of seed that these companies would not be able to sell. Now let's just say each bag of seed has an average price of around $315 a bag. That would be $366 million less revenue going in these big companies' pockets. Now, if these companies sold 1.16 million fewer bags of corn seed every year and lost $366 million of revenue out of their pocket, don't you think that that would send a message? I mean, is it going to break the companies? No, not even close. But I'm pretty sure that the bean counters in their headquarters would notice $366 million less revenue. You know, have you ever figured out that it costs you around $4 an acre for every 1,000 seed per acre that you plant? Well, you know, I'm planting that rate because, you know, I'm trying to make maximum yields, and my tests have shown that, you know, planting at this rate as it gives us the best chance of maximum yields. Well, I'm not going to argue with that, but maximum yields has gotten us $4.20 corn. That's not profitable. Now, what happens if each farmer gives up 1,000 seeds per acre? Well, that, on 93 million acres, that's going to cut out about 465 million bushels of corn out of the pipeline. Now, I think after this year's record crop, the USDA is predicting about a 2 billion bushel corn carryover going into next year. Well, if we take 25% off of that by not producing as much, by cutting 1,000 seeds per acre out of our planting population, I'm pretty sure the markets would take notice of that. Now, how much would the markets go up if we took 25% of that carryover out of production? I mean, I really don't have any idea. I don't think anybody has that idea. But I would fully expect, I mean, the markets would at least go up 20 cents a bushel. I mean, that seems pretty reasonable, doesn't it? All right, so instead of $4.20 corn, we're now looking at $4.40 corn. Well, what happens if we take, say, 5 bushels an acre off of that national average? I mean, if you reduce your populations by 1,000 seeds per acre, I mean, what's that going to reduce yields? I mean, 4 or 5 bushels would probably be pretty realistic. Well, if we lose 5 bushels per acre revenue, that's going to cost us about $21 per acre. We'll be giving up $21 an acre by reducing our populations by 1,000 seeds per acre. Well, 188 bushel per acre corn at $4.20 gives us a gross revenue of $790 per acre. But if we give that 5 bushels per acre up and we have $4.40 corn, we now have a national average of 183 bushels per acre. And at $4.40 corn, that gives us a gross revenue of $805 per acre. So by making 5 bushels an acre less, we're now making $15 per acre more. Well, it's not just that $15 per acre. You know, we're saving another $4 an acre on seed costs. So by making 5 bushels per acre less, just by cutting our seed by 1,000 seeds per acre, we're netting almost $20 per acre more. Guys, that's how we're going to take farming back. That's how we're going to start making a profit. And guess what? Those companies don't sell 1.16 million bags of seed. You don't think that they're going to get the message that we're tired of paying their high prices? You don't think that maybe they might start putting the cost of their inputs that they're selling us more in line with what's reasonable? I mean, maybe not. But I know at the rate we're going, they've got no incentive to reduce their prices. because we keep on paying their prices. Yeah, we might piss and moan about their prices, but guess what? We're still buying it. We're still buying new tractors with leather seats and all the fancy goodies. You know, we're still buying all these fertilizer additives. You know, we're still fertilizing for maximum yields, even though right now nitrogen is about 70 cents per unit. Let's just say instead of reducing our corn seed planting by 1,000 seeds per acre, how about we all reduce our nitrogen application by, say, 10 units per acre? You know, we'll lose a few bushels, but I firmly believe that most all of us are over fertilizing anyway. I mean, I'm yielding 250 bushel corn with 180 units of nitrogen out here. You know, we can get by with less fertilizer. If all 93 million acres of corn ground in the U.S. has 10 units less nitrogen on it, you don't think that that's going to send a message to these fertilizer companies? I mean, for one thing, there's going to be an overabundance of nitrogen. The price is going to have to come down. But you don't think that that's going to send a message to these companies that, hey, we need to take care of the farmers. They're finally fed up with our pricing practices. We need to look at different models to support our customer, the ones that we depend our livelihood on. So I'm not going to be like a lot of other folks in the media and social media. I'm not going to pass the buck on to President Trump, or I'm not going to blame it all on these companies. You know, I'm not going to blame it on China. I'm not going to blame it on politics, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to accept responsibility that I've been part of the problem over the course of my farming career and leading to the high input prices that we got now. And I'm going to do my part going forward to send a message to these companies that I'm not going to pay these prices anymore. But guess what? Just my voice and my practice alone not going to make a difference. Bayer don't care about my, you know, several hundred bags of corn seed that I buy every year. That ain't going to make a difference. But if all of us farmers across the 93 million acres of corn, if we all take a stand and do the same thing, I guarantee you we'll be heard, and I'll guarantee you we'll finally be able to make a difference in our industry and make our industry profitable going forward.